Your prospective client said, yes, they'd like to come on board. Now what? Next step is typically a discovery meeting where you do a deeper dive into who your new client is, what they want out of life, and what's important to them. 3 tips to crushing this meeting. Step number 1, discover the person, not the data. So what I mean by this is, yes, the client has a balance sheet. They have liabilities. They have things that need to be considered in their plan. But what's more important is their hopes, fears, dreams, aspirations, relationship with money. So make it a goal to spend as much time talking about those more qualitative things than the more quantitative number things. How do you do that? It's by requesting the client data as early as possible. So ideally, you would have requested all the data you need to build a financial plan and gotten a first crack at reviewing it and entering it into the plan prior to sitting down with the client. That way, you can spend a little bit of time refining and getting clarification, but the vast majority of times spent on more substantive things rather than the numbers. The numbers are important, but more so to you than the client. So remember that. Step number 2, consider 2 meetings. When you ask to prepare a financial plan for a client, the list of data is crazy. You need everything under the sun. And typically clients respond one of 3 ways. So in the first bucket, clients say, okay, that's great. I can get that to you. Client number 2, this is a rare one, but they say, oh, great. I've been saving all these and archiving all these statements. I'm happy to share them with you. Perfect. I knew this would come in handy at some point. Rare, but it happens. And then the client number 3, it overwhelms them. The thought of gathering all that data and information, that's why they've hired you. They want to delegate it. They don't want to think about it. It sounds intimidating. So when you request this data, invite the client to help them in gathering all this data. And if the client takes you up on it, great. You're adding value for them because it's something that's overwhelming and daunting to them. But if they do take you up on it, I would make the first meeting about gathering the data and getting organized and push the discovery meeting to the next meeting. So really that would break discovery into 2 parts. One where you're helping the client grab qualitative or quantitative data, and the second of like discovering the actual person. So hopefully most clients won't take you up on it because they're tech savvy or they're organized or they have a good handle on all this stuff. But in the event they do, you definitely want to provide that service and add that value. So consider making discovery 2 meetings if in fact it's helpful to the client. And the third step, leave the loop open. So at the end of this really fruitful conversation about the client and what they want and what's important to them, leave dialogue open. Basically communicate to them that the odds are, even if you crushed this meeting, you're going to miss something. You're going to need to follow up and circle back or need clarification. Just let the client know. Tell them that, after having had some time to digest this, I may reach out to follow up on a couple things or get additional clarification. Because the reality is you will miss something. So preparing the client and leaving the loop open, it doesn't surprise the client when you communicate with them. It doesn't make you feel like you missed something or that, you were behind the 8 ball when you weren't. Reality is you just can't cover all of the nuance and complexity of a client's whole life situation, both on paper and in their heart, in one meeting. So leave the loop open and set the expectation that you will probably communicate with them prior to the plan presentation. And if it's possible, go ahead and schedule the plan presentation while they're in there and strike while the iron's hot. I hope these are helpful. I'd love to hear what you're doing in your practices to crush this discovery meeting or what questionnaires you're using. Let me know if you have questions. Have a great weekend, everybody.